Say the word. Say the word. Say it. Firearms. They're firearms. Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Just the Tip. Just the Tip is for beginner and intermediate English learners who want to become more descriptive and tell better stories. Telling a story is a great way for you to slow down, organize your thoughts, get from point A to point B in a way that makes sense for the person you're talking to. There are so many ways to tell a story, so many ways. But we will tell a story with 3 very easy steps. Number 1, start with the characters. It helps you and your listener know who the story is going to be about. Number 2, introduce the conflict. It lets you and your listener know what the characters will be doing. Number 3, show the tension. This helps you and your listener know the most important part of the conflict. It's probably the best part of the story. It's where things start to break down and maybe where things get resolved. We are going to use this method to tell a story with 3 pictures. These 3 pictures come from an upcoming movie called Waiting for the Barbarians. Waiting for the Barbarians is based on a book by the same name. Let's get started. So step 1, start with the characters. In the first photo, we can see 5 men. 3 of them are holding very old rifles, and the 2 men in the front look like they're having a conversation. They are dressed in colonial attire. So the story starts out with 5 men, 2 of them having a conversation in colonial times. Step number 2, show conflict. In the first photo, we mentioned that there were 2 men walking in the front. These 2 men were having a conversation. In the second photo, you can see one of the men from that conversation. But this time, he's on a horse. And in front of him, we can see a couple other men who are dressed a little differently. These men also have firearms. So you have the men wearing colonial attire with firearms. You have the indigenous people with firearms. So it looks like there is going to be a conflict between the 2. The indigenous people are also lined up with their horses. And the setting of this picture is in the desert. It kind of reminds me of a Wild Wild West setup where you have one person on one side of town in the desert with a gun, one person on the other side of town with a gun. At this point, they usually say, "This town ain't big enough for 2 of us," which is a fancy way of saying, "We're going to have a fight right now." So this looks like your standard conflict, but not quite the last step, which is tension. Step number 3. Now in the third photo, this is where we get our tension. If you look into the distance, very, 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 very far into the distance, you can see these little, tiny little figures. And these indigenous people look like they are going to finally confront the colonials at their encampment. So we'll get a resolution to this conflict with either the indigenous people as victors or the colonials as victors. There's actually so much you can do with a picture. Today, we told a story with 3 pictures, but you can actually do the same with 1 picture. And if you have time, you should give it a shot for any of the 3 pictures that we had today. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments and we'll make this better together. Okay, thanks.